welcome to the Organic Perspective. Today, my guest is Mr. Anthony Hinton. He's a poet, and you can catch him every third Saturday at Fresh Smoothie Cafe performing for their poetry night. It's hosted by Ken Poetry. He calls it Ken Poetry. Might have to cut that. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about culture and how it relates, or how it, well, I guess the culture identity, because everybody has a culture identity that they grab hold to or that they're born into, and we're going to talk about how it relates to being a human being and living this human experience. So, Anthony, what is it that, just as far as, you being a human being and having grown up in Mississippi, in the South, how do you feel that your culture, or the culture that was placed upon you, has affected you as a human being?
I would say it's not very different for me or for anybody else. All cultures tend to give you a set of values and give you a set of things to think about, a set of goals to look forward to, or in a sense track you and prepare you for that culture's needs. So all cultures tend to prepare you for, I would say, to become a cog in the wheel. So, in the machine, so to speak. So, your life is not necessarily your own, and your progress is also, given the thumbs up or the thumbs down, depending on how you move along the path that culture has prepared for you. Mm-hmm. So, in the case of being in Mississippi, this is a very different kind of thing. We have to realize that the culture in America for black people is different from the culture for white people in America. So the black culture has been, for a large part, prepared by white people and or black people. So it is also designed to support white culture, and at the same time it still has its own agenda sort of set in place. Cultures, period, as I said, they prepare you to support them, as opposed to preparing you to be an authentic human being. Cultures don't do that, because you cannot live your life as an authentic human being and push forward the values of that culture.
Particular culture.
So
do you feel like, as a growing up as a human being, do you feel like cultures hinder your growth, or they help your growth, so to speak, to kind of help you find a path? Because there's always different ways to go about your journey. So is it just something that's needed, necessary evil, or is it kind of hindering the growth of the human being as a whole?
Okay, I think in the middle of this, one thing has to be kind of clear, and I think that has to do with what is your goal as a human being. What is it? You are kind of thrust in a situation where you become aware of yourself as a person, and all the things that are set in front of you, you have to deal with them. There's no program to get you ready to come into this world. You show up, and depending on what culture you show up in, you learn the things that are put in place for you to learn. Discovering what you are as a being, you are the tendency is to think that we are this culture, this body. And the first thing is we identify with the body. And then, and from that standpoint, we also identify with the culture that that body happens to be in. So we start thinking of ourselves as either Africans, Indians, Vietnamese, or Chinese, or Americans, or something. So all the cultures still do the same thing. They prepare you so that you can best serve them and whatever that culture wants to do. And usually that's some kind of political thing or economic thing that they take you on or socialize you in such a way that you play the game. The game is we're better than them. All cultures are going to give you some notion that you're better than the other individuals, the other human beings. We're no better than any other human beings, but we are not ourselves. Our purpose for coming here is to discover our inner being and not the stuff that's happening on the outside.
But do you think these outside tools is what is needed in order to start to discover what this purpose is for your life or for your beingness on this earth? Because I've read before that, you know, the earth is a living library, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so we come here to learn and to rediscover. So do you feel that those things are still necessary, even though those, they kind of blind you, so to speak?
Well, the things, living and learning is a natural process. The culture itself is not necessarily needed for you to live and learn. To give you an example, I read a story about a young 15-year-old boy who was from the Far East, where they have these funerals, these huge funerals where they burn the body. His father had died, and in the middle of all of the pageantry of the funeral, and all the people taking him to this place to be consumed by fire, the young boy slipped away. He left. He left his town. He went as far away as he could, and he ended up in some wooded area where very few people were, and he just started to live out in nature. Now, what had happened in that part of the world, people are prone to move toward what we would call enlightenment. They have an idea that you are here and you have an opportunity to discover your inner true nature. And in a sense, you have to awaken from the ideas that you are this body and you are this mind. There's an inner part of you that is beyond all these things. And so all he did was watch nature, animals, plants, and things like that. And he started to, in a sense, evolve. And as they call it, enlightenment, he became awake. And at that point, the energy that he tends to radiate started to attract other human beings, to discover what is it that this man has learned. Now, he started out as a 15-year-old doing that, and later he studied as well. But no, this one, not that one. This particular one actually did nothing but study nature. Had no formal education, no formal learning, and cut himself off from his culture.
But because we are involved immediately in the culture, which we're experiencing a lot now going on, which we did the same thing 50 years ago with racial tension and just trying to keep our communities together, and the lack of the lack of camaraderie and um, working together in black communities and keeping black communities up, do you feel that that's sort of like we're spinning the wheel and we're kind of doing the same things over and over, and it's not really going to go anywhere because it's the same formula of we're not getting down to the root of
But where are you think, in a sense I want to say, where are you trying to go? Everybody, in any culture, when I hear you keep saying we, and the we you're saying is like black people.
Because for me, I'm identifying
I
with the black
understand.
culture.
I understand.
Because that's all I.
That now you hit on the real problem. The real problem is identity. The real problem is we are, how can I say, eternal beings. As eternal beings, coming into this world, our biggest problem is the moment is when we identify with the form that we are. That is the point that we have lost ourselves. All beings, whether they're white, black, yellow people, red people, all of them, if they have identified with the form that they seem to be at that point, that is the body that they have, or the culture that they have, then they have missed at that point. It's all over, because everything from that point on is going to be an outward expression, outward living, a running, and a living in the mind, because the mind is culture, the mind is time. So you're going to spend all of your time dealing with all the issues that that culture has. You're going to fight the wars that that culture has. You're going to love and hate the people that culture tells you to love and hate. But you have missed you, because you are none of these things. At another lifetime, you might come back and you'll be in the other culture. You might be fighting against the people that your culture, the previous lifetime you had, that culture was fighting against. And then again, you miss you because you identify with the new culture.
Speaking from that human being aspect, you come in here as a spirit and pretty much dividing yourself into this entity and living in a limited body. You still have that yearningness to be whole, or you feel that you're not whole. So to some degree, that culture provides that,
No,
or that
no,
that
no,
you okay.
no. No, the feeling of not being whole has to do with the moment you identify with something that you are not. You are not this body, this cultural being that you've been set up to be. You are not that. You're an internal being. And to identify with that is to lose yourself. Because now you're trying to fulfill things that cannot give you
That wholeness.
that sense of wholeness, that sense of total being that you are. So no matter what the culture is going through or the people within that culture are doing, they're going to get limited, quote unquote, successes. There's never going to be a point of completion. The white, let's just flip the script over here and assume that we are a white group of people sitting here. It's the same thing. Those white people have money, they have this, they have all those things, and there is still no sense of I have arrived, I am complete. They are still trying to get more. What do rich people do? They want more. No matter how many millions they make, they want millions more. They work hard toward millions more. And all the people in the middle and all the people on the side, the same thing happens, because they cannot fill that empty space with money. You cannot fill that empty space with power. So, looking at it from that perspective, you see that, if black people suddenly became on par with white people who have as much money, they're still going to have that empty space, because that that space has to do with your eternal nature. That is why you are here, and you have to discover that part of you and how it connects with all life. You are part of all of existence. And the moment you section out yourself and say, oh, I'm this, you have identified with a form and cut yourself off from all of existence, all of nature in every aspect. You're no longer seeing the connections. In fact, you are putting yourself above these things and saying somehow those things are subservient to you, and they're not.
Okay, so just from that aspect of thinking, how did you raise your family with those set of beliefs? Or
Well,
did you always have those set of beliefs?
Like anyone else, I started to pay attention to certain kinds of things that are happening. All of us are here, and we are aware, and some more than others. The more you become aware that there's something not quite right about what's happening, then you can start to look into things. One of the first things I noticed that, especially, of course you're going to have to go from where you are. And being in the black culture, I noticed a difference immediately how black people acted at home and how they acted around white people. When I was a kid, I think somewhere between 5 and 6, and it became apparent to me that people were acting.
That's a play.
I was, wow. But I thought it was a game. I said to myself, okay, these people are acting, and this must be some kind of game, and I'm supposed to figure out what that game is. So I just started paying more attention to how people do things, and then you start reading a little bit more, and you start seeing that there are philosophies about life and about living, and by and by, perhaps you run into something by the Buddha, or most of us are familiar with Jesus Christ, but we're only familiar with those people in terms of what the church says. Now, I did myself a great big favor when I was in school. I took a class called Religions of the World, and in that class, I started seeing that there were other ways of thinking about your nature as a human being, and not specifically what we're taught in our church or our religious institutions in this country. And then it dawned on me all of a sudden, I said, how could I, and this happened right after, let me hold that question. This happened right after I went to a party while in school, and there were about 4 different countries represented, and these 4 students were in a corner arguing about their religion being the right one. Mm-hmm. And I sat and watched them argue, and they were all about 4 different religions, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, and something else, Hindu or something. And however, after that, it dawned on me, how could I be so lucky as to be born in the country with the right religion?
Right.
So you just looked up.
Everybody else is just unlucky.
Yeah.
You know, God loves me, don't love them.
Yeah.
Okay.
He healed me, he healed me.
Yeah.
So the moment you at least allow yourself to be honest with yourself and say, okay, well,
Like
this
this
doesn't make
stuff
sense.
ain't right.
And if God, being all this infinite intelligence and everything, can't see that little problem, I mean, you know,
So
I can see that. You know. So then questions, what about God?
Yeah, what about God?
I mean, you know, no, I'm just saying, everybody, no matter what religion they are, they say God.
Mm-hmm.
All of them say God. But somehow God do different things in different places. You know,
A different,
he got different ideas about what he gonna do for you. Is you in this religion, and he got different ideas,
different rituals.
rituals and everything. And then, if you look at all everybody's notion of God, then all of a sudden you're in another situation. You know, well, what is God? How could he be this confused? Or couldn't he see that if he, assuming that God made all the people, you know, and all the people are worshiping God, and they got different religions through which they worship God, then somehow God didn't do a deeper thinking or something, analysis, whatever's necessary to say, well, look at all these people who are worshiping me, they're clashing with each other. And in my name, and they're killing each other, which in the Christian religion is the worst thing you're supposed to be able to do. But somehow we kind of forget about that and we go kill other people, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not a part of our thinking. In fact, we say God is on our side.
He helped us win the
And he
war.
helped us win the war.
Okay, y'all go ahead and comment. You want to say
I
something?
want to say something. Y'all was the other guy issue, right? If God can destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, the city being gay and lustful, all corrupt and stuff, he could destroy that whole city. Why he couldn't destroy slavery for 300, 400 something years?
Well, it's always going to be
Because they
slavery.
created it
First-
for it.
First of all,
I mean,
let's just deal with
he could destroy our city for being
whether
gay.
there is or is not God.
I know.
First of all, there are religions that do not have God as a, you know, a being to be worshipped and all that, and someone who's going to save you. And the question is from what? So, in your own growth and development and learning, you have to decide that you want to find out. If you want to find out, then can't nobody stop you from finding out. But if you're just going to sit back and take the Pope's position or your preacher's position or the imam's position or somebody's position, you're not going to go and try and find out what is this life about? Why am I here? Then you're not going to find out, because it is on each person to discover his true nature. And his
So-
true nature is...
I'm sorry. Finding that out, because I've read some books where it helped me with certain ideas, but that's still, to some level, another person's perspective. So any information that comes through a person is going to be a stamp of their perspective on it somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So do you feel like you need to get that from within as far as meditating or you know, writing, self-discovery type of things, or you can still find hints of that in books and things like that?
Okay, first of all learning, all real true knowledge or learning, and I'll leave the word knowledge out for now, all real learning happens from experience. You know, when you encounter existence directly, it's going to teach you certain things. Now, either you're going to acknowledge and honor your experiences, or you're going to honor somebody else's experience over and above your own, just because of their position or wealth or what a title or whatever. But your personal experiences with existence is going to tell you certain things. And within yourself, you know them to be true. You know, it's like, you can imagine hearing something for the first time, and all of us have gone through that and had this experience. And you say, wow, that's true. But how do you know that's true? It's the first time you ever heard it. Because something inside of you that's already knows all that there is to know, already knew that.
Yeah.
And you responded to it, and you said, that is true. Only because it resided in you already.
With that, with you saying that, can one suggest that someone within a particular belief can reach to that statement by saying that, oh, well, this is true, and this is why I'm going to be a Christian or a Muslim. Do you
But there
understand
are, I kind of, oh, go ahead.
Wait, you said this is true.
Yeah,
And that's
this
why,
is-
okay.
Like
let's-
he's hearing somebody say something about the
Right.
Christian religion and he
Or-
feels that
Right, right.
this is true.
Or if they, for instance, their experience, they may read something and based on them, that they may be in some trials and tribulation, and based on them reading what they read, they use what they read to help them in certain traditions, something like prayer.
Mhm.
They use that and their outcome is good, which got them out of their trials and tribulations, and they use that as confirmation to say that this is true.
This is, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you come across and you find out in this space-time is that all beliefs tend to show themselves to be true. I'll say that again. All beliefs tend to show themselves to be true.
Because you believe in it,
Okay, so
right?
the moment you have a belief, the universe is set up in such a way, it gives you what that belief and that structure says. So you start believing that you're going to do well, and you honestly feel that you start doing well. You start believing that you are sick, and you can't manage to function and run like other children or other people. Then you start to, those symptoms and situations start to show up in your body and your circumstance to fulfill that belief. Now, the moment you change that belief, you also change the set of circumstances that start to happen to you. That is why people can come out of, desperate situations, and all of a sudden they just said, I was inspired in the spirit, or inspired with a new idea, a new concept or something, and that gave them a new experience.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on what you said, I mean, I myself, when you said about the experience is the best way to learn, personal
Yes.
experience,
Yes.
I came to that conclusion of just when you believe, like there's power in it.
Yeah.
Because the only way that you may want something to happen is truly believing in it. That's how some people jump from different beliefs, from like Christian or being a Muslim. I think Dr. Malachi York was a master at that, from just going from so many different beliefs and then, I guess you can say, creating something.
Well, the beliefs, and I'll throw in ideas and understanding. They give you a certain reality. Let's say you have a set of beliefs that gives you a life bubble that you can move around into, and all those things inside of that bubble, that belief or that idea, give you access to understand those things and to function within those things. But ideas and beliefs, they do fight, so to speak. And someone who comes along and gives you an idea that is this big, it encompasses your little bubble, and it goes out here and gets some of this other stuff that you've never seen before, or never tried to understand, or could not understand. It also includes that. But the new idea explains everything in your bubble, but it also explains things that you have never even thought about, that was just puzzling, absolutely puzzling to you. It also includes those things. And once it includes those things, then now you try to grow to this bubble because it has a bigger idea and a bigger understanding of existence. So now you are able to function at a bigger level. So within all these various religions or anything that is a philosophy of sorts, it's a mind thing. And and you put your belief into it, then you get a particular set of experiences. But the bigger the idea, the bigger the belief system, then the bigger the experiences. So you try to trade in small ideas for larger.
I just want to say too, like you say, anything that you believe in, you're going to start to see the effects of that. But I feel like it's a difference between believing in something and knowing it and bringing truth within you, and it's just something that feels right, like we talk about that truth, that knowing. Because like the belief system, I feel like it's something that you have to coach yourself into believing.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily. I think we get beliefs, but they're no matter what it is, there's another aspect to all of this. That aspect has to do with totality. You can be believing Chicago is that way, and we all know it's that way. But the person who is total about their beliefs or whatever it is, they are going to experience at a deeper level, and they're going to find their way. They're going to find their way quicker than the ones who will say, I think it's this way. And the people who, they may be going in the right direction, but they're so half-hearted about it. They're going to kind of meander around and do all that. But this man is total. He knows it's over here. And he's going to go there with all the speed, with all the energy, and all the intensity necessary. He's going to be there tomorrow. When he gets there, Chicago's not there. He's going to get new information because he's a total person. And he's going to get new understanding from the people there, whatever, and he's going to find out it's over there. And he's going to make a beeline with all the fierceness necessary to get there in the next hour if he can. Because his energy level is different. He is a total, he deals totally, not impartial way. So part of your understanding and your growth has to depend on the energy which you desire to know and want to learn. If you half-hearted, you're going to get half-hearted results. But you, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Question.
With the totality of the being half-hearted, how about a particular situation where someone is totally believing in a specific belief? Okay, listen, let me break it down. Let's say that Santa Claus is supposed to be real.
He is.
Right. The guy coming down the chimney, right? The guy coming down the chimney. I'm not talking about a historical perspective from this guy from Germany or something, but the guy coming down the chimney in the red suit, okay? And a parent tells their child, shows them this story, they watch movies, they're in school learning about this, celebrating about this. The child believes that Santa's coming on Christmas night, whatever, and they go down, Santa's not there, but they see presents. So at night they had a total belief, knowing that Santa was going to be there, or the presents. Just seeing the presents confirmed that Santa came, but Santa didn't come. So is it something where? Because I'm trying to draw the line between that
Believing in fictional.
No, that example. I think there's some loopholes in it, because maybe my example of Santa and all that, it can be related to specific gods that people or specific beliefs.
Same thing.
That people believe, because you can be wholeheartedly believing in something, but you're walking into a brick wall, because you could believe that Chicago is over here, but I got a map, and I got a map, but I use mathematics, I use science, I use a compass, I got a GPS, I know exactly where Chicago is. I don't have to believe in that, but somebody could believe that Chicago is all the way over here, and they say, no, I know what it is. I believed in this, I put my finger in the air, I know exactly where. They're doing all this traditional type of stuff, this tribal stuff, saying I know where it is, and they're going the wrong way, but you're telling them you have the exact information, and you're telling them, no, Chicago is in the Midwest, but they wholeheartedly believe that it's all the way in the South. So where do we draw the line here?
Belief is baby steps.
No, all we said is just, I told you earlier, I said, you trade in one belief for another. That's all you're doing. Even if you believe in GPS, it's still a belief, okay? As you grow and as you become your greater self, you will discover that no beliefs are necessary, but that's the stage of development. You have to experience things, and you can't throw away something unless you've had it in order to throw it away, okay? So our stages of learning is all we're talking about. You go through stages of learning and you are experiencing. And as you experience, then no words are necessary for you anymore about that because you have experienced it. And once you've experienced it, you move on to the next level of understanding, and you create the beliefs around that understanding, and you gather the experiences necessary to either validate, invalidate, or any of those things, because you still are growing. And if you do not experience, you will not grow. So you need to experience lies, truths, half-lies, all of that. And you're also going to have those people who are there next to you who are going to be against your half-lies, who are going to be for your half-lies, who are going to be against your truths and for your truths. And you still have to experience. No matter what they say, what they know, whatever instruments show up, whatever the technology is, at that point, you still have to learn, and you still have to experience. Now, that's sort of a thing where you see stages. Until you start going through them, you need to see why they're necessary. The truth is, let's just say, the truth is, he's God. The truth is, he's God too. She's God, and we all God. Now, everything's over. But you ain't experienced none of that. You ain't experienced all the things in between, trusting yourself to even say, man, that is right. You are not ready for that level of intensity, whatever that is. Okay? So you got to go through stages and learn yourself and experience this existence and see what it tells you, because it's telling you something all the time. Just a walk in the woods is telling you something. Whether you're picking up on it or not is another matter.
Okay, yeah. I think that's where where I was kind of lost at right there.
Being receptive.
Yeah, because you can deny it or accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always, the information is always flowing, whether they're flowing through beings, through books, through situations, or through animals, or through the sun or the wind. It's being told to you at a greater level, your greater nature. Whether you're receptive to it or not, that's another question. So all we're doing is raising our level of receptivity so that we discover it's always been right here.
And that's what I was going to kind of say with the Santa Claus thing. I let her, whenever she decides, sometimes she decides she wants to believe because she's going to get me her gifts, and then she'll tell me, Mom, Santa Claus like Hello Kitty, not real. So she has her, her own.
She plays games.
I respect the hustle,
Right.
not a problem. But just like with Santa Claus, you eventually get older. The whole point of Santa Claus is that what you want as a kid is the gifts. So people with religion, what they want with religion is blessings. They want a better life, an easier life. So if you see that and you're receiving that, you're not going to question it in between. Like, how did this fat man get through the chimney? But as you get older, and those gifts start getting lower and lower, and you're getting older and you're starting to look for more things that's not toys, but you're looking for other things in life, maybe money, maybe education. Then you start realizing, well, Santa Claus, he can't fit. Yeah, like Santa Claus, and then you start realizing he's not real. And I feel like that's the same thing with life. When people give you things like in church, I've been brought up in church. My dad's a pastor, my grandpa's a deacon. And in church, they tell you, well, if you give me this much, then your blessing will be this. Or if you do this and your blessing, and you got 10 cents in your account, you're like, man, I need a blessing. I need something to come through. So as long as that need and you think that person or that religion can give you that need, I believe that you will believe it until you start putting two and two together and be like, you know what, if I do this instead, then I feel better, or I'll receive what I'm looking for within myself without going to a building or without believing that another person can do that for you. And Santa Claus is the same representation. Except for with Santa Claus, you get older. With religion, some people just kind of stay in it.
The older
Some
they
people
get, the
mature.
more they get into it.
Yeah, they might get more into it because they feel like they done screwed up their life so much that this is the only way out. And it's up to you then what you believe. Just like he said, that's why I wasn't going to say anything, because I agree with him. If you receive it, whatever you receive, that's what you get. But if you're not open to be receptive, then you're going to stay right where you're at. You'll be 27 coming, with Santa Claus coming.
But I had a question though regarding what you were speaking about earlier about culture. To me, I think it's just confusion because we're using the English language. When I studied history and African history and stuff like that, and I grew up in the church and thought and believed in Nation of Islam and Dr. York and all these different things. And then when I studied African cultures, as they call it, it was just a way of life. To me, I think the negative part about that is just traditions. You know what I mean? And I just think with the English language, we confuse things all the time, like beliefs. Some Christians think belief is knowing, and it's not. Like you said, to me, it's just a baby step in getting to knowing. But if you don't keep using trial and error to get to knowing, you'll never know. You'll be stuck in belief. But what I did was, after studying African culture, so-called culture, it was just a way of life. To me, they protected their families, they fed each other. It was food, clothing, shelter, and the basics to keep the community growing.
Entertainment.
Huh?
I said entertainment.
Entertainment. Yeah, you gotta throw that in there. But, and I think when we come to the English language, we muddy it up. Like with me, I don't believe in none of that crap anymore. I done been through it all. I don't believe in none of it. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in none of the characters. I don't believe in, some people leave that and become spiritual. I look up the word spirit, it just means wind. And to me, a fart can be spiritual then. You know what I mean? So once we get to a certain point, you know, or my point, I just threw it all away. And I said, I'm just going to do right by like-minded people, or my like-minded people. So my question to you is, because I know you said culture locks you in a box, do you think it's the English language, tradition, or just growth of each individual?
All the things block you in the box. The traditions block you in the box. The language, and even your concept of knowing also locks you in. Because knowing is limited. We have this sort of notion that there are things over here that are not known. There are things right here we know, you know, and there's things that, you know, once we know enough, you know, we'll just put everything over here and we'll just move this little box of unknown things into the known category about discovering the scientific process and all that, and we'll be there and we'll eventually know everything. That's sort of a scientific mind kind of attitude about existence. Existence itself tends to go outside of all of our information, no matter what it is at any particular time, no matter how high it is or how intricate it is on scientific levels. We're seeing that with physics and things like that now because all the great physicists were trying to come up. I even saw something where they even came up with a God particle or some stupid thing.
Yeah, I've read about that.
They kept going from molecules and atoms and smaller particles,
right,
trying to figure out the fabric of existence. And now these people are not necessarily religious people. They're quote unquote thinking, you know, very logical, very instrument set up, everything type of individuals who are very methodical in their approach about every little iota about existence. So they still come to the conclusion they got smaller and smaller particles, and still they can't see an end to what existence shows them. and then the way existence responds, even to the point where they thought particles were built this way and that way, and then they thought particles could only be here, and you move them over here, and then they discovered that particle is in two places at one time. That blew their mind. How do they know to deal with that?
Right.
It's in two places at one time, one particle. How is that possible? So now they're just shaking their heads, and they almost sound like a mystic.
They try not to cross the line.
They don't want to tell you that they don't went so deep, and now that stuff don't make sense no more as far as the logical building blocks. The point is, existence does not care about the level of mind that you put on it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to use your mind. And I started out by saying, in a sense, I was trying to tell you that mind is not you. The physical body is not you. But you can observe them within yourself. You can sit back, sit quietly, and observe your mind operating. Most people do not know that they're not their minds. They just go with whatever mind comes up. Thoughts come up and they go with it. And they don't realize that those thoughts don't belong to you. And we've gotten so used to it. You identify with the thoughts even that come up. They have nothing to do with you. You can watch them and watch them come and watch them go, but if you start identifying with them as you do with your body, you tend to think your body is separate from all other things that are going on, and it's not. The plants that's over here is affecting your body. There's an exchange constantly between me and this plant, you and this plant. There's an interchange happening all the time. The plant is aware of it. You may not be aware of it. So the point is, we are not what we think we are. Because you think something doesn't make it so. Existence is not going to oblige your thinking. And no care if you're scientifically thinking, philosophically thinking, religiously thinking, it doesn't care about any of that. It's going to continue to do what it is doing. And you have to catch up with what it's doing. And the only way that is possible is to discover that part of you that's existential. You are a being that is beyond your physical form and your mental form. Your mental form is your mind. Your mind is going to keep you busy with things on the outside of this body, or even the body itself. The body is outside of you because you can observe it, but you can't observe you. Whatever it is that you can observe all the things that are going on, the mind, the body, and all of that. Then what is it that's observing? That is the critical part.
That's the existence.
That's your higher nature. Until you can become more aware of that part of you, then all these other things are secondary and tertiary things. What happens out here, who shot who, John, and who, any of that, all that is just secondary stuff.
Can I say, when functioning is the secondary stuff, how do you, which is the physical world we were talking about, how do you balance that, you know, when you have to do your everyday survival stuff and, you know, dealing with your kids and discipline and providing limitations on them, even though you know that they already have enough limitations, you know, how do you keep that balance of, I know you are a spiritual being with limitless possibilities, but you can't run across the street. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you still play the games of limitations with a child. You don't. First of all, you got to realize the child is not someone. Unlike, unfortunately, most parents think they own their child. They do not. Those are individual beings who are here for their own purposes, and the best you can do is grant them as much freedom as you possibly can to make as many decisions as they can safely. You protect them as much as possible, i.e. with the rules some of the rules that are necessary, like don't cross the street without letting me know, or let me go on with you, or whatever. But you got to realize at a certain point that child is able to cross the street, grant them the permission to do it freely without trying to hold them down because they're old enough now to do that. So whenever they are able to handle a new level of freedom, give it to them immediately. When they ask a
But the
question,
problem
no,
comes in
what?
when the parent is not at a level where they understand
Well,
that
you,
their
I
child is.
understand,
Yeah.
but here's another part. That part, see, there are many things happening, and so we can discuss, you know, your question takes me to a certain point, and all I can do is just deal with that part. But if we go back further and say, well, how did that child choose you to be his mother? It did. That child chose you to be his mother because of the limitations you were going to offer him. You were going to offer him so many limitations, partly to your question. Why did you decide to be born black and not Chinese? Because you wanted a certain level of limitations to try and outgrow, because you didn't understand those limitations, certain levels of problems to have to solve, so that you can get beyond those things. If you're not put in that box, you can't solve those problems. Okay, so you choose a parent that sings well, that has instruments around the house, because you're interested in music. You don't want to choose a parent that might be wealthy, but all they do is they work at the mine. They saw a big piece of what do you call it?
Rock.
Tile and rock, and they make millions of dollars selling this tile and rock. But you don't have no access to all these instruments. So you wouldn't choose those parents to be your parents. You choose the ones who are teaching music, got kids coming and going, got all kinds of instruments. They know the maestro. They can take you over his house. They can start you out with all the techniques necessary to play all these instruments. And at a certain point, you become a great musician. Well, you choose the circumstances, the people in your life before you show up on this stage. Now, that would make more sense to me than, just believing the Lord just dropped you off.
Stork.
Yeah. Whatever happened, happened.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Go ahead.
So, this is a question and a comment. Going to the culture side and the last thing that you just said, can we say that when you say that, oh, I chose to be black and whatever I'm going through personally to grow out the limitations, so can we say that this person is a soul or whatnot? And if this person is a soul, is there a special experience for this black person or for black people in general if there was so much limitations on us based on our experience with slavery?
Okay, let me just give it to you this way. The moment you say right, what happens? You also define left. You can't have right without left. The moment you say up, you say down. Okay. Now, in that way, if I say you have limitations, in another lifetime you may have had a tremendous amount of advantage. Okay? And in that advantage lifetime, you did not learn particular things that you had at your disposal, and you use those advantages against other people and, to get your way and whatever. And rather than helping people, you use your money, your wealth to just destroy people or do whatever. You had plenty of advantage. You had health, you had wealth, you had money, you had family name, you had all those things. So in order to balance that, existence gives you a lifetime where you got the opposite, so that you can experience the other side, or even meet a person like yourself that was nasty with the money, cheating them, all these things. And now you're under the thumb of that person, but that used to be you. So you have the lifetime on the other side, because existence is about balance. When you can get to the stage where it doesn't matter whether you're without money or you have extreme amounts of it, then you have become a balanced individual. But either one of those extremes, you act out based on what you have. You identify, again, with your status. your position in life, the amount of money you have. It's the same thing as having whatever culture you have. These things are defining you. You're not defining them. So you are still back and forth, one lifetime after another, having sets of experiences that is going to try to bring you to a sense of balance, where you know that money is not all powerful, is not anything. It's an medium exchange, and it can be used for development or destruction. And people who, get caught up and, with this idea that, well, let's just take the idea, they said, I think it has to do with having large amounts of money, power corrupts or something like that.
Money's the root of all evil.
Yeah, money's the root of all evil. Those kind of sayings. That's not necessarily true. What is true is that evil people tend to attract themselves to power because they want to use the power over people. Or people who have negative ideas about money, and particularly for its use and its power over other people, then that's what they're going to do, and they desire the money for those purposes. And you can get to the point where you discover that it can be used to help humanity, help other beings, thereby you helping yourself. Helping other people is not really helping other people, it's helping you, because you're the one have to grow. You're the one having the experience. And until you can make those decisions consciously that you're going to do the quote-unquote right thing. Now, I'll leave right thing over there for now, but right in your mind, because all you can do is what's right that you understand at any given point. And that's it. So you're having experiences on either side, on opposite sides, until you can find the middle. In the middle, there is no wealth. You already everybody's wealthy, because you are creating experiences that you have. That's a hell of a wealth.
So, Anthony, what was the turning point in your life where you felt like, or was it just a constant growth?
Yeah, I don't think there's a turning point. I think we're all growing at different rates.
Well, I'm just saying because I had a point where I was kind of like, I want to go on this journey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what was that in your life?
No,
what type of?
Well, let me put it this way. And I can use the example of planting a seed. You take the seed, you open the ground, you put the seed in the ground, you cover it up. You come out there every 10 minutes and you look. And you look, you don't see anything happen. And then you just say, well, I'm going to come there every hour. I know 10 minutes, there ain't nothing happening. So I'm going to come an hour. You keep looking, nothing is happening. So you back off to every 4 hours, and you keep, nothing is happening. Now, and then you back up to days, and you keep looking, nothing happens. Finally, sometime later, weeks or whatever, you see the little shoot comes up, and you see the little leaves start to grow. Now, that is to say that it looks like nothing is happening. The most important things are happening. The aha moment is only when you realize what all that negative stuff that you were going through, all that misunderstanding that was happening, when all of that was happening, the real stuff, the real learning was taking place. It didn't look like that was no real learning. It was just painful stuff. Yeah, you were going through painful situations, all of that. To get to that point where, that green leaf popped out, and you understood. So we have aha moments after we have so many moments of misunderstanding, seemingly dead-end experiences. But all experiences are there for a reason. We have to become more aware of walking out the door, of walking down the street, little things. What you're doing with you, with your time, with your life, with your words, anything, everything matters. But watching you do things, you will discover a little bit more about you. And then as your awareness grows, you know, your understanding grows. And you grow eventually to your highest state of being. And that's what we're all doing. Whether we choose to have all these crazy circumstances and blame other people and other events and all that, none of that stuff is important unless you make it so. And if you think it's important, then it's important. And you're going to create another set of experiences around that till you can grow out of it and realize it was just something to do.
Okay, so like I said, he is at the Fresh Smoothie Cafe every third Saturday of the month at the poetry night. And since you are a poet and entertainment is a part of our culture, would you like to entertain?
Wow.
Is it
I just
something
told you
that
there's no
kind of
culture.
right? You know, I had to go back to that because we talked
I know,
about the
it's great.
entertainment. But
It's
anyway,
great.
do you have something that kind of pertains to today that you want to
Okay, I can
present to
do,
the group?
I'll do that poem since she's asking me to do a poem. And I call this poem, Infinite Soul Doing Time. Okay? The soul is unlimited energy that reaches every corner of infinity. It individuates and it particularizes. It's always aware of its own disguises. It is compelled to create itself anew, even though it enjoys being me and you. Save your soul, the preacher will say. Save your soul before judgment day. But sir, the soul is conscious energy. It is formed all of humanity. The soul is infinite with infinite cloud. It speaks a word and galaxies come out. Save your soul, the preacher will say. Save your soul before judgment day. But sir, what you propose is quite a notion. Asking a drop of water to save the ocean? And sir, I'm strong, as strong as an ox, but I'm catching hell trying to put infinity in a box. But you persist with this ridiculous line, thinking finite self can save infinite mind. There is no soul to save, because soul cannot be lost. And untruth in thinking does come with a cost. The cost is worry. The cost is fear. They move into your mind just to be near, with relatives to follow that won't be late, insecurity, doubt, and yes, even hate. Hear my words, my dear friends. The soul is not something that has an end. The soul is unlimited energy that reaches every corner of infinity. It individuates and it particularizes. It's always aware of its own disguises. It is compelled to create itself anew, even though it enjoys being me and you. So the next time untruth comes from the top, take a time out, make a stop, and remember, there's good in all, even a lie. It's like a 6-inch cloud in front of your eye. When it moves by and by, all that's left is a beautiful sky.
All right. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to say before we end the show? No? Well, thank you for coming out to the Organic Perspective. My name is Eileen, and thank you, Anthony, for being my host, and
Thank you.
my co-host for
All right.
And just a little tidbit, this is my father also.
Oh, wow.